Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Socialers Podcast. I am Jason.
And I'm Joanna.
All right, here we go. We're like dialed in on this. They're unstoppable now.
That's right.
I think we should be at the top of the charts of the podcast world in no time, now that we've figured that out. So, what's going on? What's new?
Not much is new. I was having some thoughts today. Rare, but I was having, I was thinking about project management tools and how there are agencies out there, there are people out there that don't use them. Doesn't that scare you and keep you up at night? This is actually the first agency I've worked at that has, is using a project management tool.
The first agency that you've been at that uses one?
Yes.
I mean, I think it's all relative. I think it just depends. I mean, we weren't using shit in the beginning when it was just a few people, but I can't imagine a world without it. Oh
my God. We use ClickUp. We've used several. I've trialed Asana, Monday, Basecamp. ClickUp is by far my favorite. It integrates with Slack, which I don't really use that much, but it is very nice. The reoccurring tasks save my life. If it's not a task in ClickUp, I'm not remembering to do it.
It took me a while, I think, with any of them to get into a rhythm with it. I think that's where what happens often is people just don't give it the time that and the attention that it warrants to kind of get to a point where you're getting the full benefit of a tool like that. So for me, I mean, it took a while. I mean, I obviously
the setup was exhausting.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get it really at first, but now that we've been using it for, a little over a year, I think, or more, I think it feels pretty natural now. And now I can't, it's like Slack. Like, I mentioned this to the team all the time. I'm like, what in the world did we do before Slack? Did we talk through email? I mean, that sounds crazy to me.
You went up to other people's desk.
Well, I'm just thinking remotely, like, yeah, there was a short period of time where like Slack or Teams wasn't that significant, and there were still people working remotely. I just can't fathom communication remotely without a tool like that. I mean, I guess IM, Instant Messenger and stuff like that, but yeah, I can't imagine a world without. I'm sure people said the same thing when like email was just starting coming. Like, oh my God, what did we do before? Did we just talk on the phone? So there's always something. So yeah, but I like ClickUp now. I did not like Asana. I didn't like Monday. I didn't like Basecamp. It's just the user experience to me. I'm such a big proponent of technology that is enjoyable to use is the key to everything. I think that's, some people care about that. Some people don't, but for me, I do.
And ClickUp's not perfect, but no. I remember specifically the only thing I wanted obviously all the basic features that come with a project management tool, but the one thing that ClickUp had at the time, which is probably a year and a half ago, that other platforms didn't, was reoccurring tasks. Yeah. Or the way they did reoccurring tasks was just painful. And I needed that, because when you're in service-based, like when people are paying you a monthly retainer, there's like 50 things that you need to do over and over again, whether it's daily, monthly, weekly. And I needed it.
So there you go.
ClickUp had it.
ClickUps are ClickUp. If you're listening, maybe we can get a little cut, for the free promo
a little
there.
Piece of the pie.
Yeah. So.
All right. So today we are talking about another topic that we enjoy venting to each other about and talking to each other about: red flags and green flags in clients or prospects.
All right.
You and I are on the exact same page with, I think, all of our red flags and green flags.
Well, I mean, it's hard not to be. I mean, at this point, after working together for a couple of years.
Well, yeah, but I think what I'm getting at is that oftentimes business owners only see dollar signs and don't think about the long-term effect that bad clients can have. Yeah. Not only on the bottom line, how much money you're bringing in, but also the effect it has on morale for the team. Like, that's worth noting. And you've been very, very good with that, but we've been in sync, I think. And we've just learned over time together. Like, we've gone through, it's trial by fire. Like, you find out red flags when it turns into a sour situation.
Well, I think when you're like, Well, I mean, and I said this in the book, and I've said this in anything I've talked about when it comes to starting an agency, is that the rules that you play by in the beginning are not the same as what they inevitably can be once you start to create some momentum for yourself. Like, we can sit here and say, we can say no, and we can be more selective. And that's a luxury that we have now that we've been in business for almost 5 years. But, with folks that are just starting out, they're red flags, maybe they can't, it's not so black and white. Like, they have to maybe take on situations that they may in the future not really want to. So, take it with a grain of salt. You can, we're not naive. We know that, what you can and can't accept can depend on where you're at in the life cycle of your business.
100%. And yeah, it's a spectrum of a red flag. It goes from white to red to pink to red.
Well, I think all of the ones that we agree on I think everybody would agree with. It's just a matter of whether, somebody's in a position to not take on that situation. So,
yeah. I think a general tip that I've just learned in the past 2 years is if it happens once with a client, it's more than likely going to turn into a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If someone comes in up front and they're unhappy with something and they come in hot and they're a little bit aggressive about it, it's probably going to happen again and again. It's not like, okay, how can we resolve this situation? Yeah. I mean, oftentimes we have to look at both sides, right? I'm thinking of one client in particular this happened to a few months ago. But you look at the situation, you're like, okay, how can we problem solve this situation? But you also have to look at like the longer term effects. Like, okay, is this person's character? Are they going to be, they going to come in hot and heavy, be aggressive about something? And 9 times out of 10, I've seen it just plays out over and over again. History just repeats itself. So it's just a general, just to get your palate wet.
What's the saying? You give them an inch, they'll take a foot. What's the other saying?
I think it's give them an inch, they'll take a mile.
That seems like too big of a discrepancy.
I really do think, I know you use this phrase, if you give them an inch, they take a foot, but I'm pretty sure you give someone an inch, they'll take a mile.
Okay, here's another analogy. If somebody calls you by the wrong name and you don't correct them right away, that has to be your name, because then it gets too weird.
Okay, do you know how many times I'd have to correct people?
You have to do it right.
You've been on the last 2 calls you've been on. Every single person's like, and I'm Joanna.
If you don't correct them, then that's your name. You have to accept it.
I feel bad.
You have to do it right away. Then it gets weird, because then
Joanna.
If you tell them 3 weeks later, they're like, oh my God, I've been calling the wrong name for that long. Why didn't you say something?
Yeah, but if you do it right away, sometimes that comes off wrong too. Imagine if I just interrupted people all the time when they first started talking.
I think
I'm
you have
it's
a window.
Joanna.
You can just send an email later. Hey, by the way, I guess you can't send an email because you're not pronouncing it.
yeah,
I guess
by
you're
the
out
way,
of luck.
it's Joanna.
I guess if they mispronounce it, it is what it is. I don't give a shit, quite frankly, unless they completely.
I don't know a single human on this earth who goes by Joanna.
Yeah,
have you ever heard that?
No, not really. I've had people call me other J names, like Justin, or because they get me confused with somebody else. And in that sense, I will correct them. But I guess you're not going to really mispronounce Jason. I mean, Jason. No, it's Jason. Nobody's going to mispronounce it.
You don't know. You don't have these problems.
Now, my last name, that's a whole other story. That gets mispronounced all the time, but I don't care.
Your Mark?
I just ignore it. Your Mac is usually pretty consistent. I don't care. Don't care.
Anyways, so what do you think is a red flag? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
First thing that comes to if somebody's an asshole, which is obviously pretty.
But how?
Well, that can manifest itself in a variety of different ways. For me,
because this is why I said you have to look at the long-term effects, because I feel like some people, when you say, "Oh, that guy's an asshole," I know what you mean, but I feel like some people, especially business owners, might just say, "Oh, they're a little bit difficult. You can handle it," kind of a thing. Whereas you don't put up with that.
When I say asshole, I mean that's a broad. If I classify somebody as that, I have made the decision that if this is not going to be a healthy situation for my team, and I am not going to subject them to this. I feel pretty confident that if I check that box, that they're significantly assholish enough to to not proceed. And usually that's just, are they arrogant or overly arrogant? Are they, do they seem like they're disrespect, like, and you've experienced this, like, and sometimes I may not gauge this right away because I'm a man, but is it a situation where they're disrespectful to women because they're a guy?
Like if they speak differently to me than they do to Jason, usually we know, okay, well,
this and you know my sensitivity that like I have no tolerance for that, and also to the same extent of if they're disrespectful to people that aren't at the they're not at the perceived level that I'm at, like, oh, I'm not talking to a CEO or somebody in charge. There's always, if there's somebody higher than who they're talking to, then they're going to talk down to you. I'm not having that. So
if they constantly run to you when it's been established that I am there for their needs, then it's an issue. Yeah, that's pretty obvious. But see, some people might just say, oh, he's just being difficult. Oh, he's a boy's boy or whatever.
I think so. There's that. Another one that's related. If they're just disinterested, right? If they don't seem to be invested in the relationship, if they just want to be like, oh yeah, I need this thing, just send me a thing and I'll take a look at it. And then how that manifests itself into the service relationship is that they're not responding in a timely manner. They're not providing feedback. They don't respect the time that we're putting into things. So that's a huge red flag, because we can't do great work if our clients aren't cooperating. Like, it's just not possible. So that's a hard pass.
I think also when clients or prospects don't apologize for their shortcomings, like if you're going to be held to a certain standard, or we as an agency are going to be held to a certain standard, then I appreciate when the client is willing to hold themselves to that same standard. Miss meetings or late to meetings or things like that. If it's very like transactional and they think their customer is always right sort of thing, they don't take responsibility for any of their shortcomings, then my red flag radar goes up. My spidey senses start tingling.
Yep. That's
my head gets warm. My ears start smoking.
Whoa.
My teeth start falling out. And that's when I know.
You need a doctor. Stat.
Jathan, time to fire them.
God. What's another? If they balk at pricing.
100%.
If they're uncomfortable. Now, we've done a really good job of being pretty transparent. So by the time somebody gets on a call with us, they already know where our rates live. So it's pretty rare these days, but certainly for a while, there was a period of time where that wasn't the case, and I'd get on calls, and if they're uncomfortable with that number, then I really just I try to end the call. Then I just say we're not the best fit for you. Now again, when I was first starting out, take what we can get, but once we got to a point where I knew what it costs to do what we do, we couldn't really budge too much on that. And if they're uncomfortable even before you start working together, they're going to be
going to continue.
Immediately, they're going to be like, why am I not seeing results in a month?
If you have to prove your worth that much up front, just expect it to continue. Never expect like, oh, we're going to blow their minds. If they're signing on with hesitation, they're going to carry that hesitation.
You need to charge what you're worth, and you need to work with people that won't hesitate to pay what you're worth. Otherwise, it will go south 99% of the time. So it's great to get to a point where you can just do that and do it comfortably. Even if you get in a situation where you can kind of talk him into it, it's like even that is not going to end well, because if at any point in the process they communicate discomfort with what you charge, I promise you, even if you're able to talk them into starting out with you, it's not going to end well, because they're going to have a very, very short fuse, short runway of expectations. And those of you that are listening that are social media professionals or run an agency, shit doesn't happen overnight. Like you got to stick with it. It takes some time. And if they're in the beginning uncomfortable with rates, that is a walk-away proposition, I think, every time.
100%. I think if they're uncomfortable with any part of the service, You know, if there's hesitation on any part, not just the cost, but like, well, how are you going to respond really quick? Because we have sales coming in all the time. Sometimes at 9 o'clock at night, I need something running. Are you going to be responding then? And if there's any convincing, I think, and we're in a really lucky position because we get all mostly inbound leads. So it's people looking for us who have already seen our website and are interested in us. So really what we do on pitches is we show up and we show people who we are. There's no selling. There's no like, how can I paint this pretty picture so that they want to come on board with us? It is, this is who we are. Do we want to enter into a relationship together?
Yeah. If you're just starting out, the best thing you could do is be as transparent and forthcoming with what you offer, who you do it for, the work that you've done, and what you charge to do what you do. If you put that out in the wild, yes, you may not get as many phone calls or inquiries, but the ones that you do are going to be so more pre-qualified, and you're going to be not wasting as much time, doing that on calls. We do that with interviews. Like we've got, that's one of the things I'm really proud about. What we've accomplished is that we have figured out how to optimize our time, I think, tremendously when it comes to new opportunities and new candidates for the agency. Like we've just, we're just transparent about everything. And then by the time we get on a conversation with them at that point, like it's everybody kind of knows where things stand for the most part. So it's a really easy to navigate those conversations at that point.
Yeah. And I think also you need to structure the agency or whatever to be that whoever's selling or whoever's in that position of bringing on new business, they also have a stake in the retention, because if you have those two, it's a dichotomy. Like you'll have, or a battle, you'll have the client delivery team whose performance is based on how long they can keep their clients happy. And then you have a salesperson whose main goal is to bring in clients. You need to bridge that gap. Otherwise everyone's going to be unhappy.
For sure.
And sales is going to try and convince client delivery, it's a good client. They're just a little difficult.
Agreed.
Am I boring you?
I'm so bored right now. Why are we doing
I'm sorry.
this?
Let's break it up with a trivia question.
Great.
Honestly, social media is a really hard trivia category to find good questions on. It's all like year and money based.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna have to branch out every other time and just do a random general trivia question.
That's on you. This is your segment.
Okay. What is the second, or if you want to do top three, what are the top three most visited websites in the world?
Google.
Correct. Number one.
Amazon? Really? Damn it.
Yeah, I mean, I
YouTube. I'm sorry, YouTube.
Yeah, nice.
YouTube, Google. And the third one, I should know this. Facebook?
Yes, you nailed it. I mean, Amazon was a little
stupid.
Yeah, that was
dumb.
You were thinking US, but even then.
I'm going to take it out.
No, you can't edit this. I edit these.
Yeah, I suppose it'll be tricky.
This is going to be the teaser.
Oh, but Facebook's dying, though. Facebook's dead. Nobody uses Facebook anymore. Ugh.
Your Aunt Linda, I guarantee, uses Facebook.
Yeah, right.
She's all over it. She spends 4 hours a day.
It's dying, but it's the top three in traffic. Okay. All right. Clickbaity article, whatever.
So I know you may have some more red flags, because red flags is what we talk about far more often than green flags. And I know green flags are often just the opposite of the red flags, but are there any green flags that come to mind? We really nailed this down recently.
Well, I mean, I guess you could just flip the script and say, professional chemistry. Like if I get on a call, you can just tell when you instantly just bond or connect with somebody. It's fun, it's effortless, and you kind of get off of the call with a level of excitement. That's one of my favorite things, when I come across a situation like that. That's a no, because that almost trumps everything. Because if that exists, like whatever logistical challenges that may exist, you're probably going to be able to work through those things because you just have this dynamic that you really enjoy. So professional chemistry, I think, is a big one. If they have a product or service that just kicks ass, that's really cool, and you get excited about like, oh my God, they have this amazing thing. Like and then you start thinking about what you can do for them. So those are the ones that jump off the page for me in terms of, what I get excited about. And to that note, when we get opportunities to like work with nonprofits or cause-based organizations that are doing things that make the world a better place, like I always really get excited about those opportunities because they're few and far between, because they're usually not as well funded or have the kind of money that some of the bigger companies do. But and that's an area where we will maybe take a little bit less if we feel like it's an opportunity to do something right and we can do it without sacrificing the business too significantly. So
my green flag is kind of a red flag that I'm just rephrasing to be a green flag. When they don't complain about a previous agency, I have found in my experience, when they complain about a previous agency, and this depends, right? Like some of them are pretty easy to see through, like, oh, the other agency wouldn't give us access to our own ad accounts, and you're like, oh, okay, that's a little bit sketch. But when they're like, they would take forever to respond, and then you onboard them, you go through the rigmarole, and then you take 5 minutes to respond to an email and they're calling you, it's like, oh my God, I feel so bad for that last agency. And they were probably so excited to get rid of them.
Yeah, it's that's a tough one. I think that's a no-brainer when there are multiple, if a client comes to us and they've worked with multiple agencies and they're complaining about multiple agencies, that's a pretty good sign that, maybe you're the problem and not the agency. It's kind of that whole, like, if you're in relationship after relationship after relationship and they don't work and you're like, oh, he or she was this or that. It's like, well, what's the track record here? Let's look at patterns. So if it's multiple agencies, probably something's up with the company. Now, if it's just one company or one agency that they've worked with that they had a challenge with, that we can often overlook a little bit or kind of see through. But if they have a pattern of, multiple agencies not working out, there's a pretty good chance that there's something wrong on the client side, and that's going to resurface in whatever relationship you're forming with them.
I think also, and this depends on where you are as a business, right? Like when we were first starting out, we would have never said no to someone who came to us as a business owner. Yeah. But I think over time, as we got more sophisticated, we realized that a business owner has just too much stake in it to conduct a productive relationship. They care about every dollar spent and they want to make sure that they're getting a return on investment from day one, which just doesn't happen, especially when you're running ads, or sometimes even if you're doing it organically, they would want, okay, well, I'm going to get leads because I'll be active on social media. They just had way too much stake, and it was way too
the curse of the solopreneur.
That's what you call them. Couldn't think.
No, we don't work with solopreneurs anymore just because they can't get out of their own way. It never works. And that's not to say that they're bad people or they're making bad decisions. It's just it's just not a good fit, because to your point, like every little thing, like they just don't, it's like my theory with hire kick-ass people and get the F out of the way. Let them be awesome. Let them fail. Let them learn. A lot of solopreneurs don't have the patience for that.
Or the money to have the patience for that.
and that falls back to the lack of comfort around it. Like I always tell, prospects now, like if you can't get comfortable with paying what we charge for at least 6 months to allow this thing to take shape, and that's going to keep you up at night, we're not the right fit for you.
Yeah. Non-responsive. Difficult to get a hold of. We have seen that you will be on the chopping block. What the hell was that?
That was Siri. You triggered Siri on my phone somehow, or I did.
Hey Siri, do you have that? I don't have it where you can talk to it, but my Siri does. She doesn't like me. She never does anything for me. I'll ask her the weather, and she's like, "I'm sorry, I haven't learned that language yet." No. I'm like, "What? I didn't."
It's hit or miss.
But yeah, I think that being non-responsive is just. And that kind of ties into just not valuing the relationship, like you were talking about earlier. If they don't find value, if they don't show up to meetings, if they don't respond to emails, even if you're kicking ass, the minute you stop kicking ass, or if they don't realize you're kicking ass, you're going to be the first to go when there's, budget cuts or their contracts up.
Another super green flag for me are clients that take the time to tell us awesome job or point out great work or give kudos to the team. Like, it's pretty rare because for that to, not because we don't do great work, it's just because it becomes so, I would argue it's because our work is great and they're used to it. Like, it's rare to get somebody to come out and just kind of do that. So, well, those that take the time to acknowledge others' hard work, like, I love that. I think that's such a great sign of a great client relationship.
You know, it's so funny that I'm just realizing now that we're talking about it. We're kind of like reinventing the wheel. Like, what are red flags and green flags in clients? It's like, they're pretty much the same as any relationship, like friendship, partnership. You are going to have a partnership with your client. So do they own up to their own mistakes? Do they appreciate the good work you are doing? Like, anything you'd want in a partner.
Yeah, pretty much.
Maybe not anything, but.
So what you're basically saying is we just wasted everybody's time. That's
just be a good person. Be good people.
Have lots of money and be good people and awesome products and services. And yeah, I guess there's a lot of parallels into real life, but you know, I don't know. I'm on Reddit all the time and you got people asking left and right questions like this about how do I do this and how do I do that and what's a good sign for this and what's a good sign for that. I think sometimes
because I think when money is involved, it muddies things. Right? Like, if you're just starting out and a client wants to work with you, you're going to ignore the red flags because you want that money. You want that client.
Well, I think, like I said, we're not naive. So, like, for those that may be listening, all 7 of you, maybe a couple of you are, just starting out. Yeah, you're probably going to have to take on some situations that are red flags. But as long as you're aware of them and you acknowledge them, then maybe you be a little bit more prepared to deal with them, or at the very least have a little bit more patience with them and be able to manage it better. But like I said, I don't think anybody would disagree with what we've kind of laid out here. It's just a matter of, again, what level of risks do you have to take when you're wherever you're at in your business journey.
But you're very good at this, but having that intuition to know when to take the next leap, when to start saying no. Okay, we're going to start saying no to solopreneurs because it's not working out for us anymore long term.
Yeah, it was tough. When I think about that, it's tough because I remember having conversations with you about it over time and being like, yeah, this doesn't really, and then I'd get a new lead and I'd be like,
it's hard to pass up.
They seem different. Mm-hmm. Like, he's nice. They got a good product. Like, let's give it a shot.
And then boom.
Shit.
3 months in, an aggressive email.
Thing happens again. It's like,
or they don't want to work with me because I'm a woman. Yeah, they just hate you with it.
Right. And it's not 100%. I'm sure there's a solopreneur out there that would work for it, but it's not worth the 10 that we have to go through, to the 10 crappy situations to go through to find the one that does. So it's like, it's all about risk reward. We've reached a point where, it's not worth the risk.
And like the return on investment is easy to calculate when a new client comes on board, but the return on investment when you say no to a client is much harder to calculate and see. But to make you feel better, and for those listening that are maybe in your position, I did this for the book interview. I don't know if it made it into the book. I can't remember, but one of my most pivotal moments at Socialistics and with our relationship was we had a client who was a solopreneur and wasn't happy from day one. And we got on a call and he was just very disrespectful to me and an account manager who was on the call with me. And I remember I went to you after and I was like, I've never felt so disrespected in my professional life. And I'm embarrassed that the account manager was on. She didn't need to hear that. That was just very inappropriate. And you didn't hesitate. You were like, I'm firing him. And you just emailed him and we're like, that's it. We're done. You don't disrespect my team. We're ending this relationship. You don't owe us whatever. We're ending it clean right here. And that was that. And 9 times out of 10, the client will be shocked. They'll be like, what? You mean
yeah, and if I'm thinking if it's the one I'm thinking of, I remember it's just like a bully. It's just like, they're going to continue to bully you until they get pushed back. And then they're like, what? Like, and then they're just so shocked that like somebody
and he
would
never would have
challenge them.
spoken to you like that.
No,
never would have spoken to you like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he wasn't expecting. He just thought he could steamroll us.
Yeah. I think that's what brings me so much joy now, is to have seen this through and get it to a point where I can be my true self, and then I can treat this business the way that I see the world, the way that I feel like I want to approach relationships, and I get to pick and choose, and I don't have to be rolled over. I don't have to be, I don't have to, I don't have to be something that I'm not, and again, I had to in the beginning, and but it's a means to an end. I think that's the goal for everybody. But you also
didn't put up with it at the expense of the team's morale, which is rare. Yeah. And so kind of to tie that up into the return on investment is, I don't think consciously, but subconsciously, like I'm extremely loyal to you. I respect you a lot. And it comes from moments like that where I'm like, whoa, I don't have to be belittled at work by clients.
And imagine if I was the opposite. Do you think that you or anybody on my team would stick around?
I've worked under the opposite, and I'm not there anymore. And I love to leave.
Right.
It's my favorite quitting story.
Yeah. Well, this is why agencies and companies have so much turnover, is because most business owners don't do that. And my opinion is, I'd rather lose that revenue and operate in that way in hopes that my team trusts me more. They want to stay around longer. I don't have to deal with turnover on the team side. And the fact of the matter is, we are as good as what we are now. And a lot of that has to do with longevity and consistency. And it's expensive and time consuming to have to constantly bring in new people and get them up to speed. Our product is our people. And the quality of our product is only as good as the people that are in the agency. So,
and we were probably charging that client specifically a third of what we charge clients now, just because the caliber of what we do has increased so significantly. And I like to think I played a small part in that.
Yeah, of course.
A teeny tiny part.
Just like a sliver.
Microscopic. Yeah. You need to whip out your microscope.
Well, I'm just glad we're at where we're at. And for those, there's light at the end of the tunnel if you stick with it, and you have the appetite and the time to do it right. You can
would
have
you
that
agree
too.
Would you agree that you need to take risks at the beginning when saying no, and you need to step out of your comfort zone, and it is probably not going to feel good at first, but then over time you develop like that sixth sense?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that situation that you highlighted to me wasn't difficult to do. I think that was an extreme situation of somebody being just incredible. That's just bad.
But to you, it wasn't difficult. I'm telling you from experience. As an account manager, you get abused by clients, and that's just part of agency life.
Well, to me, that's just the measurement of a character of a leader. If in that situation, somebody would be like, "Suck it up, too bad. It is what it is. Money is the most important." Like that's just a character issue for me. Like I'm like, and trust me, I've worked with people and around people that are that way. And I just decided, look, if I could be a completely different business leader and we could have twice the revenue that we have right now, but it'd be a volume based game. We'd have twice as many clients, 3 times as many clients. And then my team I'd be probably cycling out of people every 6 to 12 months. I'm like, that's not the life I want to live. Hell no. I want consistency. I want an easier managed business. I want people to feel trusted and supported. That's what I want. And when you operate that way, it takes longer. It takes longer for that to become sustainable and scalable. And, I guess for me, having spent the first 18 years professionally, not experiencing a lot of that, I think I was just ready to just be like, screw it. This is the way I'm going to do it. And however long it takes is however long it takes.
Well, you've been doing a good job.
Thanks. Just a sliver.
Just microscopic. You got to whip out the same microscope, cover one eye, squint. Let's wrap it up with this question. What's a red flag or green flag in your personal life? Because I bet they're going to be similar.
They probably are.
They gawk at the price.
The red flag, I think the thing, I just can't stand arrogance. I just really have people that are just arrogant, like overly, like just they only care about themselves, and they just think that I can't stand being around that. So that's a big one. Green is just I don't know if there's a word that encompasses it, but I truly believe that, when you really simplify it, there's a subset of people in the world that are just good people. And those people, like, they just have heart. They have a good heart, and they genuinely care about others and want to do the right thing. And they're the people that would go out of their way to help others, and just, they have a good heart. I think those are the people that I like to surround myself with. And the reality is I don't come across that very often, especially these days. So when I do, those are the people that you want to hold on to, either personally or professionally. What about you?
It's so general, but when people are just annoying, and that can mean anything, it usually includes arrogance. So it's like an umbrella term. Just when they can't read the room, I think that's what annoys me the most. Like, read the room. Just, if you can't read the room, then just stay quiet and don't try, please. Don't be an asshole. But it's so general. I like to try and make it more specific. I'm trying to think of a green flag. For some reason, only relationship, like romantic relationship green flags are coming to mind. I'm trying to think about just like general people. I'll just, my green flag in a romantic relationship is like importance placed on family. Like, my fiance pushes me to talk to my family all the time, and not pushes me. I don't need a push, but he's just very encouraging of that. And I hadn't had that before. So I
could probably use some of that from him. I don't, that can fall by the wayside for me. But that's a whole other story.
I'll have him add you to his Rolodex.
Yeah, you just text me randomly. Have you talked to your brother lately? No, all right.
I'll set up a Zap for that.
There you go. That's perfect. Zapier solves everything.
What if we're saying it wrong? What if it's Zapier?
I think it might be Zap. You were right, because if it's a Zap, then it's Zapier.
But then why wouldn't it be PP?
I don't know. We're just going with Zapier until somebody tells us otherwise.
Okay, fine.
Tomato. I don't know. I'm not a smart man.
You're not smart. You're old as dirt.
I'm old. I'm dumb. I'm bald.
So if you can do it, anyone can.
Exactly. Like, this is ridiculous. That's my whole point of the book and this podcast, is for people to be like, well, if this dipshit can do it, then that's the goal. So, and
on that note,
should I wrapping, since you wrapped up the last one, maybe
you do it. Right. I also don't have water.
All right, let's see. Listen to the podcast, review it, like it, share it on social media, tell your friends, send in donations. I'm just kidding. Don't send in donations. I think I'll have t-shirts.
Donate to our GoFundMe.
I think I'll have t-shirts by the time this comes out. So if you heard this, mention it on Slack. Just send you a t-shirt. First 5 people, something like that. I don't know. We're just getting started. So someday
if you want a t-shirt, let us know.
Yeah.
And then we'll decide how many people will get a t-shirt.
Yeah. Just cut us some slack here. We're just starting out, so. And now watch, we'll get like 1,000
Speaking of slack
requests. Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening. I'm Jason, and this is
Joanna.
Awesome. See you next episode.